Welcome to The Author Show, where we feature new authors and books, from fiction to self-help and everything in between. You'll find it all at theauthorshow.com. That's theauthorshow.com. And now let the show begin.
Many women sadly experience the loss of a spouse way too soon. Our book today reflects true love amid such tragedy and the relationship with a man who served in the Air Force and became the flight chief for Air Force One. Welcome to The Author Show. I'm Danielle Hampson. Our book title is Presidential Spirit, written by Gina S. Scheff, a wife who learned the true meaning of standing behind one's spouse, not only in health, but in sickness too. Gina, welcome to The Author Show.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad to be with you.
Gina, first of all, I am very sorry for your loss, and I know too well the agony that you felt. So in just a couple of sentences, how would you summarize your book, Presidential Spirit?
I would summarize my book, Presidential Spirit, as a true story with the highest of highs and the lowest of lows of our marriage. It's about my husband David's military service, his battle with cancer. You can read how I almost missed out on the love of my life and soulmate by not taking David serious. David's spirit is a big part of my book, and you can read how amazing he was, and by the spiritual signs he left in 2 photographs that were taken.
Now, is your book suited for any specific type of reader, or can it be enjoyed by all?
My book would entertain a wide audience. There is something in my book for everyone, or adults and teenagers, for someone with interest in the military or fighting cancer, or anyone that wants to be motivated. It will leave you feeling emotional and inspired.
And how did writing your book help you navigate the grieving process?
My book left me feeling very emotional, full of pain, and many tears and heartache. Reliving the past and his death all over again was difficult for me while writing my book, and my heart was full of feelings that helped me put him at rest and let him have peace. As I fulfilled a promise to write this book, it gave me closure to move on in my life, and that's what David would have wanted me to do. I will always have something to treasure that is part of us.
Yeah, indeed. And how long after he passed on did you start the process of writing the book?
Well, I took notes while he was doing treatments, and it took me probably about 5 years total to complete it, because I would stop, write, and then I'd get upset and then pick it back up, and reliving his past all over again was difficult for me. And my heart was full of feelings that helped me put him at rest, and peace,
Yeah, I can understand that. And let's talk about your title. Selecting a title is typically quite difficult to do. How did you decide on Presidential Spirit?
Well, first, it came to me because David was the spirit of Presidential Air Force One aircraft. He lived it every day and was honored to wear the Presidential White House Service Badge on his uniforms daily. David soared like an eagle of the presidential spirit, and it was a perfect title for the man that knew so much about the presidential aircraft Air Force One.
Can you tell us a little bit about David's health crisis?
David's illness started when he could not eat. He just went off of his feet, and we had farm animals at the time. Then he started turning a yellow color and itching, and he went to the VA for his yearly physical, and they took 9 tubes of blood and did an ultrasound of his liver, and the doctor called and said it was grave. He was diagnosed with a rare form of cancer called cholangiocarcinoma and Kleinstein's tumor at the age of 44.
Ooh.
David had a 13-hour surgery, removing 70% of his liver, his gallbladder, and all of his bile ducts. And then during the surgery, the surgeons created him a new bile duct. And after the surgery, he did chemotherapy for 4 months. Then 2 years to the day, he was re-diagnosed. And he beat the odds of 6 years total for his type of cancer. And then he passed away.
That must have been a very difficult period for both of you. How was his spirit when he passed on? Well, obviously, he must have known, he would have expected that, but did he retain a positive look at life?
Oh, yes, he did. he was special because he would always be upbeat and relaxed, and he always had a big smile on his face. He had the best attitude of anyone I've ever known, and David was completely willing to be a scientific study. He knew the chemo trials were necessary if they were ever to find a cure for cholangiocarcinoma and Klingston's tumor. And my husband was using his body for other people to find a cure for this type of cancer, which says a lot about the kind of man that he was.
How did you react to that decision of his?
I had to stay strong for him. And it's like his famous quote was, just suck it up and do it. Well, I had to suck it up too.
Yeah.
And it's almost like you have to psych your mind out that they can beat it, and you're hopeful that they can, but it was a deadly cancer.
What big dream is in presidential spirit?
As a young airman, David had read in an airman magazine that inspired him to someday serve on Presidential Air Force One. He thought that the Secret Service manned the aircraft, but it was the United States Air Force maintenance. So as I took notes along the way, his hard work and dedication gradually paid off, and his dream that he read came true. And as his wife, I stood right by his side as he achieved his dream and vision and became the presidential flight chief of Air Force One. David always said his spirit animal was an eagle.
Now, you write also about David as being your best friend, someone who made you always smile, made you strong. And you say that some heroes wear capes, but your hero has wings. And it is obvious that you had a tremendous amount of love for him. In what way did David show his love to you?
Well, David never thought of himself as romantic, but he was. Once David gave me this crystal world globe with a wooden stand because he said, "You are my world." When I opened the box, I lost it and tears rolled down my face. David was my world too, and the two of us were a mess, crying happy tears. He knew just how to express his devotion for me, and he would get me crying with the way he would show me that he loved me. He always showed his love to me by giving me heart-shaped gifts or rocks that are heart-shaped to express his love to me. David was always a shopper and a giver. David would always tell me we were connected because I had his rib, and the two of us did everything together. Our communication was great, and we could talk about anything and everything, and we were always looking for each other and holding hands.
Well, and he said he was not a romantic type. Well, if that's not romantic, I don't know what is.
Yeah, he was very romantic. Yeah.
Now, since we're on the love matters, the word precious is often used when discussing love issues. What is very precious about your book?
Well, I would say the most precious thing in my book would be that David always said that time is precious. Everything's based on time. From the day we are born to the day we pass away, you can never stop time, not even slow it down. It's always ticking away. We decide how we spend that time. It's about the moments, the minutes, the hours, the days, months, years. David believed in making time matter by counting his blessings. We both enjoyed our time together up until he passed away.
Now, going back to his work, being the flight chief of Air Force One, how important was that to him?
David being the flight chief of Air Force One was his whole world and part of all his life. He would put that VC-25 747 aircraft first, which I always understood because it was such an importance of the mission for the presidents of the United States in his military Air Force career. The aircraft is a symbol of America and always mission ready when the president needs it to fly on Air Force One.
Did you get the opportunity to see the inside of the plane?
Yes, but I never flew on it. Got to walk through it. Yes.
Yeah, I can imagine that's got to be a beautiful sight.
Oh, it is.
Now, going back to your book, what chapter or chapters maybe do you feel that the readers will particularly enjoy and why?
I think chapter 1, our love story, because after reading that first chapter, it pulls you in and wants you to read the next chapter and the next chapter, and so on. It lets you read how David and I became each other's Valentines, and he made me feel whole again. And then readers will enjoy chapter 6, titled Priority 1. In this chapter, it highlights my husband's career, going full-time in Presidential Air Force One. And then David always said he appreciated how I stood by his side while working for the Flying White House.
Now, I'm a big believer in learning at least one thing each and every day, even if just a little thing. What have you learned through the process of writing your book that you did not know before?
Writing was a long process for me. I would write, then step away for a while because it was so hard to relive certain moments in our life together. Doctors would say to David he needed to write a book, and my husband would say, my wife Gina is going to write my book. I did write David's book because he always had so much confidence in me, and I realized that I could write a book and become an author.
Now, will you read a short excerpt from Presidential Spirit for us?
Oh, yes. I want to read chapter 28, My Hero. Sometimes you need a superhero in your life. My husband, David Scheff, was my hero. He was my dream, my whole life, my partner, whom I looked up to before, during, and after his cancer fight. When the battle started, David was such a fighter. He earned every one of his battle scars from his surgeries, and that is when I knew I was married to a true hero. The cure for which we both prayed for did not happen during David's lifetime. My heart goes out to anyone who is fighting cancer or who has already won that battle and been cured. When you are a caregiver for someone with cancer, you need to believe that they can beat it, and you do everything possible to help them succeed. My hero was destined to have cancer so that he could play a significant role in finding a cure, and they did just that. As David often said, cancer was the card that I was dealt. If you had anything to do with David during his treatments as a caregiver or just as a friend, you know how he touched your heart in some way. And David touched my heart every day. They say love happens only once in a lifetime, and if that is true, I was married to my hero, and I was honored to be his spouse. David was wonderful to me, and I was a spoiled bride. To have been married to the love of my life is something that I will always treasure. Although David and I will not grow old together, walking arm in arm down through the years like two happy lobsters, until we meet again, I will cherish all the great memories and special times we shared during our life together. David made me happy, and it deeply saddens me that I lost my better half. The person who made me whole is gone, and now I have an empty hole in my heart from losing my love, my best friend, and my soulmate.
That's a beautiful passage and an absolutely beautiful tribute to your husband as well. Thank you for sharing that with us. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
What lasting value do you feel that Presidential Spirit will contribute to the readers?
People will read that the love that the two of us shared together, it was special, and not even death could take it away. Readers will feel captivated, and they will find pieces of themselves in this story. David's soaring spirit is an inspiration to so many, and it will give them courage and strength. One important message is that everyone can feel their dreams no matter what they are faced with in their own life.
Now, Gina, how have readers responded so far to your book?
Readers have been touched by reading my book, Presidential Spirit. They say that they cannot put it down and stop reading it. My book leaves readers with goosebumps and feeling captivated, inspired, and motivated. Men say it leaves them with tears and full of emotions. Presidential Spirit so far has a 5-star book review.
So would you recommend reading it with a hanky nearby?
Oh, yeah.
So where can readers find out more about you? And by the way, in what format is your book available, and where, most of all, where can they purchase it?
My book can be purchased at ginascheff.com, and you will find on my website links to purchase my book.
And Gina, in what format is your book available? In print, in ebook, in audiobook? What format?
It's in hardback, paperback, ebook, and in audio CD.
Well, Gina, thank you very much for introducing your wonderful husband to our audience today. You know, memories are precious. You will never forget indeed. And may they keep you warm inside always. Thank you for coming and sharing this with us today, Gina.
It was my pleasure. It was my pleasure. And you're welcome. Thank you.
Now, more than ever, love is very much needed, and I hope that this review excerpt would inspire you to read this very warm, true story of unbroken love between husband and wife. Quote, absolutely loved this book. Read it cover to cover in one setting. While the book and underlying love story, perhaps like any great love story, has the inevitable ups and downs, the book is on balance so uplifting. Yes, folks, true love still happens, and it can endure through health and through sickness. End quote. Presidential Spirit is the title of the book by author Gina S. Scheff, and her website is ginascheff.com. And that's GINASS as in Sam, CHEFF as in Frank. GinaSCheff.com. So go and get it today, and when done reading, remember to leave a review, as those are very important to authors and they are very much appreciated indeed. And remember to share this interview with your friends so that they too have the opportunity to discover our guest and her work. And lastly, remember also that The Author Show may be accessed at any time at theauthorshow.com, and selected interviews may also be found on major platforms like Amazon Fire TV, Amazon Music, the Roku channel, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and many, many more. And whether you are an author who would like to be featured or a reader in search for new books to read, theauthorshow.com is a great place to start. I'm Danielle Hampson. Thank you for listening. Until next time, with another author and another wonderful book.
Thanks for listening to The Author Show. Find out more about authors and their work at theauthorshow.com. Theauthorshow.com. Tune in next time to another great author on The Author Show.